This is one of my favorite videos with the Nano SFI. It's actually a pretty long video too. Most of the videos I get, it's kind of hard to know when a fight's coming, and I can't record all the time because there's times when I could go 30 minutes an hour of roaming and not get any fights that are worth recording, or fights period. So I can't leave the recorder going forever. It takes up a lot of the hard drive. It's like, I don't know, a couple gigabytes a minute for every minute of video. So for this one, I lucked out in that I was coming through Syndicate, and this system FD, I knew Goons had been hanging out here quite a bit at the time, and I knew I could probably get a fight here if they were active. So I started the recording right when I ran my scanner. I just came in to system, ran my scanner, saw that there was a thorax, a saber, a jaguar, and a claw, and the stabber fleet issue. But as you know, the ideal targets for the Nano SFI are targets that it can kill relatively quickly. So usually destroyer and below, something that's relatively flimsy that can drop fast, especially when you're outnumbered. You don't want to take on a target that's going to take forever to kill when you have, because if you're, the time that you're engaged is the time that you're giving them to adapt and change their tactics to adapt for what you're doing, to where they can then counter you and kill you. So you don't want to give them any more time than you have to allow them to adapt to what you're doing. So ideally you want the small targets. So at this point I saw saber, jag, claw. All of those are targets that I have a good chance of taking down pretty quickly. Even if all of that's on the same grid, I can probably whittle through them, if I execute properly, which is always, a difficulty to execute right, and it takes practice to get to where you can kind of execute in the way that you can look back and say, oh, I should have done this, should have done that. But it takes practice to actually do the things that you know you should do. So let's start the video here. I'm warping across system, and I'm warping to a station where I think these guys are probably at, and I just want to see if they're at station, see what they're up to. So you can see I'm still running my scanner. I've got the thorax there. The thorax I could take 1v1, but it's not going to be 1v1. So he's not an ideal target for me right now. Really, I'm looking for that jag and claw ideally. So you see I'm scanning around. They're not at this station, so I'm checking the other station. I'm going to align to that other station. Never sit unaligned, just in case. So the jag and the SFI are over at the other station. SFI is not a huge threat unless he has a scram. Usually they're armor fit if they have a scram, which means they're slow and I can outrun him. If he's shield fit, then he's probably a disruptor, and he can add DPS to me, but I can probably overload my micro warp drive and outrun him. So you see an Inyo just undocked from this station. And Inyo's an ideal target, but I need him to charge at me. I don't want to charge into him and then have all this other stuff warp in on top of me. Ideally, you want everything on grid so that you can control it. If it's off grid, it's a lot harder to control off grid. So you can see I'm checking this guy. Whenever I have time, I like to check my potential targets to see their age. I do that by checking the employment history. I made a video about that called Know Your Enemy, or something like that. Anyways, it's 2009, which means he's probably good enough in the Inyo. I mean, 2009, it's plenty time to max out an Inyo. So I have to assume that he's not going to be a super easy kill where I could just charge in and take him out with a couple shots. He's not a complete noob. We got the Raptor, which is Doc Grimes. Thankfully, he left his ship with his name, so it's easy to tell who he is. He's a little bit old, so he's not going to be super easy, but it's a Raptor. I can probably drop a Raptor really quick, even if he's a good Raptor. So he's an ideal target too. Now I just got to find something, and I got to find something that's willing to charge me, really. I like for targets to charge me, because if they charge me, it gives me a really nice line and a really good tracking as they come in, and it basically plays into my strategy. I mean, a lot of the things I do is, I'm just baiting them to charge me. I want them to send a frigate at me, because that's when I get kills for the most part. So you can see now it doesn't look too good here. I want to try to isolate with some distance. So I'm going to warp to the gate on the far side of the system. This gives me about a 17 AU distance from the rest of their fleet, which gives me a little bit of time to work with if I'm fighting these guys. So I'm going to warp to this gate over here, and I see that the Stabber fleet and the Inyo are over in this area Turns out they're not at the gate, they're just in this area. So that didn't work out quite as planned. I'm going to realign. Looks like I might be starting my warp here. Okay. No, I cancel the warp because somebody's coming in through the gate. I saw a gate flash. So this could be a small frigate that's going to charge me. It's going to get aligned instead of warp. Expanding my scan range there. I might have had it lower, I guess, from before. Getting aligned to something else, a belt, so I don't warp to a gate. I don't want to land at a gate with aggro. So I'm just sitting here waiting for this guy to uncloak. He hasn't uncloaked yet, so staying aligned, being patient. I'm reselecting a belt. I might be selecting a different belt so that I line across the gate. I don't want to get too far away from the gate. I want to stay roughly between 100 and 120 from the gate. Just in case a big fleet comes in, they can't warp to me. Okay, so it's the Raptor. This is ideal. If this Raptor charges me, I'm good to go. It's an easy kill. Keep an eye on my scanner. Looks like now we have the Inyo and the Stabber fleet coming back. There's the Stabber fleet landing on grid. You can see the Stabber fleet landed at a tactical. Let's pause it for a second. The Stabber fleet landed at a tactical warp in above the gate. So he's above the gate, but his spot isn't really all that good because he's only 150 away. Ideally, he'd be higher up to where he could warp down easy. So what I'm seeing right here is the Raptor's velocity is gone up. So the Raptor has decided, it looks like he's decided to engage. However, you can see his radial velocity is not as high as his regular velocity. That tells me he's coming at me at an angle. Maybe he's worried I've got artillery or something. I don't know. But he's going to try to spiral in from a distance, it looks like at this point, which is what a lot of interceptors will do. That's how they're trained, is to spiral in on the target. You got to, the real truth there is it's not the best training. It all depends on what target you're engaging. His best strategy, if he really wanted to tackle me, would be to shoot in at me until about 50k and then take a sharp angle off to the side and spiral in from about 50k. From that range, it's going to take him too long to get to me. If I was a typical target that didn't want to fight a blob, I would just run away right now. And the longer it takes for him to tackle me, the less likely he'd be to get the kill. But in this case, I'm actually hoping they blob me because they have a lot of frigates that I can kill. So let's keep an eye on that Stabber. See, he's just outside 150. He can warp down if the fight goes down right here. So that's not good. Something else that goes wrong here is you see that Inyo. Inyo just came in and landed pretty much right on top of me. So at this point I'm panicking. I'm in a pretty bad situation. This is not what I wanted to happen. I did not want something to land right on top of me now because I'm not ready for this fight. Ideally, before this fight happened, I would have charged that Stabber fleet and moved my range to about 130 to 120 kilometers from him so that he could not warp into whatever fight happened. However, the Inyo is right on top of me. I've got to make a decision. Do I run or do I fight? I've got two targets on field now, the Inyo and the Raptor, that are easy kills. The Inyo is not a huge threat to me because I can kill him fast. The biggest threat from the Inyo is if he gets close enough and he gets a scram on me. If he can get a scram on me and hold me still, then he can avoid a lot of my damage, and I don't have a newt, so I'm left to trying to track him and trying to use drones. So if the Inyo were to get a scram, I'd be in trouble. Then they could probably all pile on, and there'd be a good chance that I'd lose. My best way to stay alive here is to stay moving. So you can see now that the Inyo's in, the Raptor's going to get a little bit more ballsy. Inyo's got me locked. You can see he's actually moving faster than me. So I'm overloading my micro warp drive. This is what made this whole fight right here. The Inyo is moving faster than me. He's going to come in and get a scram. If I don't do something fast, I'm going to probably die. I may survive if he scrams me, but if I don't make sure that he does not get within really 13k, but hopefully he doesn't have a web, and hopefully I can, 10k is probably my danger zone with this guy. So I'm going to do my best, overload my micro warp drive, and do my best to keep this guy at 19K. See, I keep at 19K. I lock him up. As he's coming in, I need to just get DPS on him as soon as possible. I should have had DPS on him already, but I was too busy maneuvering. So I get my DPS on him, get my drones on him, got him pointed, keep at 19. You can see the Raptor has now charged in. So the Raptor's in on this fight now. I've already started to lock him the moment I saw him charging in. A lot of stuff's going on really fast here. This is the execution I was talking about. You got to be able to move fast, adapt. It's like, okay, Raptor's in. I got to lock the Raptor. The Raptor's going to hold me down. He's a threat. I'm already on the Inyo. I need to finish the Inyo fast, switch to the Raptor. I've got to watch the Stabber fleet, try to keep him at range if at all possible, which isn't really all that possible because my main threats are the frigates. So hopefully I can keep that Stabber beyond 30K. If not, my main focus is keeping both these frigates off of me, which is difficult to do with two. So you can see the Inyo's going down relatively quickly. He's right in that danger zone, right around 19K where I want him. So I got to drop him fast and switch to that Inyo, or to the Raptor. Doing good. Keep at 19 on the Raptor. Now the Raptor, even overloaded, I'm not faster than him, but he doesn't want to come too close. He thinks if he comes close, he's going to die. He dies real quick anyway. He didn't have any tanks. So at this point, I've gotten 2 quick and easy kills. I'm happy. I think this is it. I don't really want to engage the Stabber right now. My micro warp drive's half burnt out, and it just doesn't look like it's the best time to engage him because I don't know what else is coming. I need to kind of get my bearings. I see the Saber and the Thorax come in, so now I definitely can't engage the Stabber fleet. You know, 1v1 I would try if I knew it would be a 1v1. This isn't a 1v1. So at this point, I'm pretty much pulling in my drones, getting ready to leave. You can see the Saber came in relatively close along with the Thorax. They warped in on a fight as it was going down. So I'm pulling in my drones now. You can see that, you look at the velocity of the Saber. He's charging right now. Let's pause it for a second. So at this point, the Saber is charging. The Saber is faster than me, which is a threat because if the Saber gets right on top of me and scrams me, he's going to be doing pretty good DPS. He's going to hold me down. The Thorax is going to close, and once the Thorax gets on top of me, I'm dead. Up close and personal with the Thorax, I have no chance. So if I can't stay unscrammed right here, then I die. So there's a big threat here in this fight. I really, really don't want to get caught by that Saber, even though the Saber's faster than me. You can see they're both closing. The Stabber over here, he just seems like he doesn't want to fight. He's kind of hiding off in the distance. He hasn't really committed to the fight yet. He's always stayed at range and seems like he's kind of scared. The Stabber and Thorax, however, are charging. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to try to move my ship a line or micro warp drive away from the Stabber at first. Lock him up, get DPS on him as fast as possible. I'm overloading my DPS. It did not turn on when I clicked it there, unfortunately. So now I'm trying to just find something to align to. So now I've finally got DPS on him. I should have a point on him right now. I don't know why I didn't have a point on him. I must have just been so focused on being able to get out if things go bad here. So I get DPS on him. You see he was closing, and now he got scared, and he turned away and ran. So in the case of this guy, he started to charge in. He got scared. He backed off. That caused him to lose. Had he just continued his charge and got under my guns, he would have survived a little bit longer and maybe held me until the Thorax got there. But with him running away, I just turn and approach because I see that he's turning away from me. And so I want to make sure I keep my DPS on him, keep him in that danger zone, right around 19K. As soon as I saw him turning away from me, I charged right back in after him and tried to take him down. So now we've got the Thorax charging in, and the Nano, or the Stabber fleet issues, also within striking distance. So I'm a little bit worried here, but I'm thinking I can go that Thorax. If the Stabber fleet stays at range, I might have a chance. I can keep the Thorax at range pretty easily. You can look at the thorax. He's overloading right now at 2,900. He can't keep that up for long. So I'm just staying aligned right now, trying to get my drones in. And it looks like thorax did not want to fight. He's gone. He's warped, I guess, to a tactical. Stabber fleet's pulled off as well. And it just doesn't look like anything's going to happen here. So that's pretty much it for the fight. It's getting a little bit jumpy, the video looks like. But that's pretty much it. The whole thing here was keeping my cool and making sure I didn't get scrammed. That was really the biggest thing that won me this fight, was by overloading my micro warp drive, making sure I did not get scrammed, and doing everything I could to avoid getting scrammed, keeping them in that danger zone is what won me the fight. You can see that even like a Saber isn't a threat to you if you can keep him in the danger zone. They are faster than you in most cases, but an overloaded cycle of your micro warp drive is often going to be enough to give you the speed advantage to keep him in the danger zone and allow you to kill a Saber. You just don't want to engage multiple targets at the same exact time. Now, having them on the same grid is not the same as engaging them at the same time. You know, I can take an Inyo and then, 15 seconds later take a Raptor, but when, as you saw in the beginning, when they're both right on top of me at the same time, that's a much bigger threat. Had the Raptor been a hero tackle and ran in with the scram, then the Raptor and Inyo would have been right on top of me, and although I probably would have killed one or both of them, by the time I killed both of them, it would have taken me longer to kill them, because the closer they are, the more difficult it would be to track them. By the time I killed them, the Saber and thorax would have landed on top of me, and I would have certainly been dead. So with a general rule with the Nano SFI is you got to keep moving or you die. I mean, I guess it's like what they say with sharks. If you stop, you're dead. So you never ever want to get scrammed or webbed in this thing. A web, you might survive, but you certainly will not survive a scram in a blob situation. So maintain your speed and make sure that you take targets and get your DPS on targets as they're coming in. So in that case, what you saw, I messed up several times where I didn't get the DPS on quite early enough. Like with the Inyo, I probably could have got DPS on him, I don't know, 5 seconds earlier than I really did, maybe 10 seconds. But I was too focused on making sure I had something aligned to, I was moving in the right direction, making sure I was staying out of scram range. That was my priority. My primary focus was just avoiding the scram at first. And then with the Saber, I could have got DPS on him faster. What you saw was I actually went down to click the module and overload it, and it didn't take for some reason. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Maybe I didn't click it right. I don't know. But the first time I clicked it, it didn't take, so that ended up costing me some time. I could have had DPS on the target. Finally, something you're really going to have to watch, that you're going to see a lot when you're flying the Nano SFI, is people are going to turn and run. Frigates, destroyers, they're going to charge you at first, and they're going to think that if they get on top of you real fast, they'll be okay. They're going to get into your danger zone, which, is probably what, 13 to 25K in the ship is your real danger zone for them. That's their danger zone, the zone they don't want to be in, because you're going to be doing your maximum DPS to them right around there. They're going to get into that zone, and they're going to start taking heavy, heavy fire. They're going to start losing hit points, and most people are going to panic and turn and run. And what that means is, if they're in a fast enough ship, if they turn and run, and you're moving away from them, and they all of a sudden turn in the opposite direction, you're moving at, 2,300, they're moving at 2,500 or whatever in the case of the Saber, you're pulling away from each other at like 5K a second. Even worse if you're attacking a interceptor. Now you're pulling away from each other at like 7, 8K a second. It means within a second or two or 3 or 4, you're going to be outside your gun's really effective range, and they're going to basically remove all of your DPS off their ship, and they're going to get away. You don't want them to get away. So throughout the fight, as you see them starting to take damage, you want to be right ready to charge, to change your direction and approach. So when you see the velocity all of a sudden start to drop, his velocity goes from 2,500 or his radial velocity, you see it being negative. Negative meaning he's coming towards you, and all of a sudden the radial velocity starts dropping. That means that he's slowing down to turn away from you. You need to instantly push approach and turn back in on him and keep him in range for those last few shots while you finish him off. But then be ready, should there be more targets coming down the line at you, to turn back around and again start your run and continue your fighting on the run. So I thought this was a really cool fight. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And I think it's a good fight to learn from for taking on multiple targets and for not panicking and making sure you just time it right and avoid getting scrammed.